The galaxy was at war. Not the kind of war fought with mere soldiers and strategy, but an all-consuming, civilization-ending slaughter. Entire planets burned. Empires that had stood for millennia crumbled under the weight of superior technology, ruthless tactics, and the cold efficiency of the Valir Dominion, the most advanced and feared species in the known universe. And now, Earth was next. The Dominion had barely considered humanity a threat at first, a fledgling species, new to the stars, no genetic enhancements, no psychic abilities, no hyper-advanced war doctrines like the older races. Humanity was a joke, a footnote in galactic history, destined to be crushed under the heel of those who had mastered space warfare centuries before they even built their first rocket. But the Valir had made one fatal mistake. They underestimated humans. When Earth received the Dominion's ultimatum, surrender or be annihilated, the response wasn't negotiation. It wasn't even defiance. It was silence. For years, humanity had been working on something. A last hope. A final gamble. The HSS Black Horizon. No one outside Earth's secret war council knew the details. No leaks, no spies, no transmissions. The only thing the galaxy knew was that humanity had vanished from the battlefield for a while. They had retreated from the outer colonies. Their fleets had pulled back. Their diplomats stopped responding. And then, the Black Horizon emerged. It arrived in the Dominion-held system of Telvok Prime, the heart of Valir power in the sector. At first, it was dismissed as just another human warship, a futile attempt at resistance. The Dominion's fleet moved in, thousands of ships surrounding it in a perfect sphere, ready to reduce it to atoms. Then physics broke. It started as a shimmer around the Black Horizon's hull, like reality itself was struggling to decide what the ship was. Dominion sensors malfunctioned. Their computers registered the ship as being in 12 locations at once. Weapons locked onto it, only for targeting systems to crash. Entire ships froze in space as their gravity drives flickered out of control. Then, without warning, the Black Horizon moved. Not the standard movement of a ship engaging thrusters or activating a warp drive. No, this was something else. It blinked. One moment it was surrounded, the next it was inside the Dominion formation. A vessel the size of a city, warping through space as if inertia and mass were mere suggestions. The Valir panicked. They opened fire. Beams of plasma, hyper-accelerated railgun slugs, exotic matter torpedoes, everything was thrown at the Black Horizon. It should have been destroyed. There was no way a ship, no matter how advanced, could survive such overwhelming firepower. But the weapons never landed. Reality warped around the Black Horizon like a liquid mirage. Energy beams curved away at impossible angles. Projectiles vanished as if they had never existed. Some shots even reversed direction, slamming into the Dominion fleet that had fired them. And then, it struck back. The Black Horizon didn't use traditional weapons. No turrets, no missiles, no beam arrays. Instead, it reached out. One Dominion battleship, the Kalos 17, vanished. No explosion, no debris. It simply ceased to be. A moment later, another ship was cut in half, but not like a normal slicing motion. It was as if the two halves had been in two separate realities and suddenly collided, shearing metal and flesh into an unrecognizable mess. The Valir admiral, Vakor, watched in horror from his command ship. He was no stranger to war, had conquered dozens of planets, seen every kind of weapon imaginable. But this was not a weapon. This was an abomination. "Retreat!" he roared, his voice shaking. "All ships, retreat now!" It was too late. The Black Horizon moved again, phasing in and out of existence, ignoring the laws of motion. Valir ships began disappearing faster than their sensors could track. Others suffered stranger fates. Some were frozen in time, their crews locked in an endless moment of terror. Others turned inside out, their hulls and living beings reversed into impossible configurations. And then, just as quickly as it had arrived, the Black Horizon was gone. The battle was over. The Dominion fleet had been reduced to scattered survivors, if you could call what remained survivors. Some of the ships had no crews left at all, their personnel simply erased from existence. Others had aged thousands of years in seconds, their hulls crumbling into dust. Admiral Vakor sat in stunned silence, watching the wreckage drift in the void. Humanity had done the impossible. They had built something that should not exist, a ship that defied reality itself. And the galaxy was about to learn just how terrifying humans could be. The Valir Dominion had ruled the stars for thousands of years. They had fought wars, crushed rebellions, and seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. They were the dominant force in the galaxy. But for the first time in their history, they knew fear. Word of the battle at Telvok Prime spread like wildfire. Dominion commanders tried to suppress the reports, but surviving captains whispered the truth to their crews. A human warship had erased an entire armada with no known weaponry. It had moved like no ship should. It had warped physics. It had made their technology obsolete in an instant. And it wasn't alone. Intelligence reports from deep inside human territory suggested that the Black Horizon was only the first of its kind. The humans had disappeared from the galactic stage for years. What if they had built a fleet? What if they were preparing an invasion with warships that ignored the laws of the universe? Admiral Vakor, now a disgraced survivor of the massacre, stood before the Valir High Council in their grand chamber on Orvax 9. The towering figures of the Dominion's rulers loomed over him, their glowing eyes filled with fury and disbelief. "You expect us to believe," one of the counselors growled, "that a primitive species has built a warship that bends time and space?" "They are not primitive," Vakor replied, his voice hoarse. He hadn't slept in days. "They were hiding something from us, something impossible, something we cannot fight." Another counselor hissed. "No technology is beyond understanding. This Black Horizon is just an advanced warship. Perhaps they discovered a new cloaking system, or some kind of dimensional phase weapon." Vakor slammed a fist against the table. "Did you even read the reports? Ships did not explode, they vanished. Others had their entire crews erased while the hull remained intact. Some aged into dust in seconds. This is not a new weapon. This is something else." Silence filled the chamber. Finally, the High Warlord of the Dominion, a being older than any of them, spoke. His voice was low, calm, but carried the weight of absolute authority. "If what you say is true, then humanity has become a threat unlike any we have faced before." His glowing golden eyes narrowed. "And threats must be eliminated." Vakor felt the pit in his stomach grow. "You can't fight this, Warlord. We don't even understand what we're up against." The Warlord leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "Then we will learn." Meanwhile, deep in human space, aboard the HSS Black Horizon, Captain Dante Raines stood on the bridge, staring at the holographic display of the carnage they had left behind. Dominion ships reduced to wreckage, warships erased from time. The most powerful fleet in the sector, annihilated in minutes, and the Black Horizon had barely tried. "Status report," he ordered, his voice calm despite the implications of what they had just done. Lieutenant Emma Voss, the ship's chief tactical officer, tapped a few controls. "All systems normal. No structural damage. No energy depletion." Dante exhaled slowly. That was the terrifying part. The Black Horizon hadn't even strained itself in that battle. It had moved like a predator toying with prey. He turned to Dr. Elias Kern, the man responsible for designing this impossible ship. I assume you have an explanation for why our weapons don't behave like, weapons. Kern smirked, adjusting his glasses. Because they aren't. The Black Horizon doesn't fire missiles or energy beams like a normal warship. It manipulates reality itself. Explain. The scientist's eyes gleamed with excitement. The ship's core isn't powered by conventional physics. It's an artificial singularity, a controlled black hole. But not just any black hole. We engineered it using principles we don't fully understand yet. He leaned in, voice dropping lower. We found something buried beneath Europa's ice, an anomaly, a thing that shouldn't exist, and we built the Black Horizon around it. Dante felt a chill run down his spine. Are you telling me this ship isn't human technology? Oh, we built the ship, Kern said. But the power source? That's something else, something older. Dante stared out at the void beyond the bridge windows. A war was coming. The Velir Dominion wouldn't let this go. They would come with everything they had. But for the first time in human history, it didn't matter. Because humanity had something no one else did. A weapon that shouldn't exist. A warship that conquered the stars. And this was only the beginning. The Velir Dominion did not hesitate. Within hours of the Black Horizon's attack on Telvok Prime, the High Warlord had declared humanity an existential threat. All treaties were void. Diplomacy was dead. The order was simple: exterminate them. The Dominion's military machine moved with terrifying efficiency. Fleet after fleet was mobilized. Hundreds of warships, planetary assault divisions, and even their dreaded Sunbreaker-class dreadnoughts, capable of glassing entire worlds, were set on a direct course for Sul. This was not a war anymore. It was an execution. But humanity was ready. Captain Dante Raines stood in the dim glow of the bridge, eyes locked on the incoming threat. The largest fleet ever assembled was headed for Earth. The Dominion wanted them gone. Every last one of them. Good. Let them come. Status? He asked, his voice calm despite the storm on the horizon. Lieutenant Emma Voss pulled up the tactical display. Over 4,000 enemy vessels. Battlecruisers, carriers, siege platforms, more than the combined strength of every human fleet in existence. Against them, one ship. And yet, Dante didn't flinch, because the Black Horizon was not a normal warship. Dr. Kern, he said, turning toward the scientist who had designed this monster. You said this ship doesn't operate on conventional technology. Tell me, just how powerful is it? Kern smirked. You saw what happened at Telvok Prime. That was a single battle. We've barely scratched the surface of what this thing can do. Dante nodded. Good, because we're about to face the full force of the Dominion. Kern's expression turned serious. Then it's time we show them why physics doesn't apply to us anymore. The Dominion fleet arrived in Sol space, weapons primed, expecting resistance. They found silence. No human warships, no defenses, not even planetary shields active. It was a trap. A shimmering ripple in space appeared near Jupiter, a tear in reality itself. And then, the Black Horizon emerged. The Dominion fleet opened fire immediately. Thousands of plasma lances, railgun slugs, and fusion torpedoes screamed towards the ship. Enough firepower to obliterate a planet. And yet, the Black Horizon didn't move. Instead, the laws of physics broke. Energy beams bent backward, slamming into the Dominion's own fleet. Some torpedoes stopped in mid-air, frozen in time, before reversing course and hitting their launchers. Some ships simply disappeared, erased from existence like they had never been there. panic spread. "What is this?" a Valir commander screamed over the comms. Admiral Vakor watched in horror from his flagship. "It's not a ship," he whispered. "It's a nightmare." And then, the Black Horizon attacked. It didn't fire weapons. It didn't launch fighters. It tore open reality. Gaps in space appeared, holes to nowhere. Dominion ships were pulled in, vanishing into infinite blackness, never to be seen again. Others aged thousands of years in seconds, their hulls crumbling to dust. Some were trapped in time loops, reliving their deaths over and over again. The Dominion fleet, the most powerful force in the galaxy, was being dismantled like a child's toy. Vakor turned to his bridge crew, his mind racing. There was only one option left. "Retreat!" he bellowed. "All ships, retreat now!" But before they could even run, the Black Horizon moved, not through space, not with thrusters. It blinked, one moment distant, the next right in the middle of the Dominion fleet. Then everything collapsed. For the first time in recorded history, an entire armada was wiped out in less than an hour. And the Black Horizon was untouched. The Dominion was broken. The war was over before it even began. Entire sectors of Valir space declared independence, terrified of what humanity had unleashed. The once invincible empire fractured overnight. And the Black Horizon? It vanished. Not back to Earth, not to any known human colony. It simply left. No one knew where. Some say it had become more than a ship, something beyond human understanding. A ghost in the void, waiting for the next empire foolish enough to challenge humanity. Because if there was one lesson the galaxy had learned that day, it was this: you don't break the laws of physics, unless you want something worse to break you. The Valir Dominion was in freefall. Once the undisputed rulers of the stars, they had been reduced to shattered remnants, their fleets annihilated, their leadership in disarray. The devastation caused by the Black Horizon wasn't just a military loss. It was a psychological wound, a horror they couldn't explain. Entire fleets gone in moments, ships erased from time, weapons turned against their own creators. This wasn't war, this was a warning, and the rest of the galaxy had received it loud and clear. The Grand Coalition, a union of powerful alien civilizations who had once dismissed humanity as primitive, now scrambled to understand what had happened. Were the humans still the same desperate survivors who had barely scratched their way into space? Or had they become something else? Something unnatural? The Black Horizon had vanished after the battle. No transmissions, no sensor readings, nothing. The last known location of the ship had been near Neptune's orbit, where it had blinked out of existence. Some speculated that it had returned to Earth's hidden shipyards, rearming itself for another impossible war. Others believed it had entered some other plane of reality, existing outside of time and space itself. One thing was certain. If the Black Horizon returned, it wouldn't just be the Valir Dominion that suffered. It would be everyone. Admiral Vakor stood before what remained of the Valir High Council. Their empire was burning, their fleets obliterated. And yet, the rulers of the Dominion still refused to accept the truth. "We must strike back," one of the counselors hissed. "Find the humans and wipe them out." Vakor clenched his fists. They still didn't understand. "We can't fight this," he growled. "You saw what happened. Our weapons were useless. Our defenses meant nothing. The Black Horizon is not a ship. It is something else. If we push them further, we won't just lose this war." He glared at them. "We will cease to exist." Another counselor, older and more cautious, leaned forward. "Then what do you suggest?" Vakor exhaled. There was only one option left. "We surrender." The chamber fell silent. One of the younger warlords snarled, baring his fangs. "Never." "You don't understand," Vakor snapped. We have already lost. The only reason we are still standing is because humanity has allowed us to." Another silence, this time heavier. The Valir were conquerors. They had never surrendered in their history. They had never been afraid. Until now. Finally, the High Warlord himself spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "What, have we awakened?" No one had an answer. Dr. Elias Kern had seen many impossible things in his career. He had spent his life chasing the limits of science, breaking barriers no one thought could be broken. But even he had no idea what they had built. The Black Horizon was never meant to work. Humanity had designed it with the best technology they had. But somewhere along the way, something else had taken over. Something old. Something that shouldn't exist. As he stood in the frozen depths of the Kuiper Belt, watching the hidden lab's instruments scan for traces of the Black Horizon, he felt a chill run down his spine. The ship hadn't just vanished. It had left this reality. The only question was, would it return? And if it did, would it still be under human control? The Black Horizon was gone. Not destroyed. Not hidden. Gone. Every human sensor array, every deep space probe, every classified black site telescope in the Sol system had tried to track its last known coordinates. Nothing. It was as if the ship had simply ceased to exist. But something was still out there. Strange gravitational anomalies rippled across the outer edges of the system. Temporal distortions, small but measurable, appeared near Saturn's orbit. The quantum foam in the vacuum of space was different. And deep in the Kuiper Belt, Dr. Elias Kern was staring at a signal, a single pulse on his instruments, a signature that defied all known physics. It wasn't a distress call, it wasn't a transmission, it was more like a whisper from something outside reality. His heart pounded as he traced the data, running simulation after simulation. The pulse had come from beyond the observable universe, beyond time itself. The Black Horizon hadn't been destroyed, it had ascended. In the weeks following the Battle of Sol, the galactic balance of power had shifted overnight. The Valir Dominion was fractured. Some of their warlords had fled into exile, taking what remained of their fleets to distant, uncharted systems. Others had begged for peace, sending emissaries to humanity with desperate offers of truce. For the first time in history, the galaxy feared humanity. And for good reason. The Black Horizon had been just one ship. If humans could build another, if they had mastered the impossible, no empire would ever be safe again. Admiral Vakor stood in the observation deck of his ruined battleship, now nothing more than a drifting husk fleeing from a war he had once commanded. Once, he had been the Dominion's greatest admiral. Now he was a disgraced fugitive. He had watched his fleet, his people, be erased from existence by something that should not exist. And yet here he was, alive, while others had simply vanished. "Sir," one of his surviving officers said cautiously, "what do we do now?" Vakor's jaw tightened. The High Warlord had refused to listen. The Council had underestimated the humans. And now, the Dominion was gone. But Vakor was not. "We learn," he said coldly. "We find out what the humans have created." His eyes burned with determination. "And if we can't defeat it," he exhaled, "we join it." Captain Dante Raines had seen victory before. But this was different. The Black Horizon had destroyed an entire armada. It had vanished into the unknown. And now, the galaxy was on its knees. Humanity had gone from a minor species to a galactic superpower in the span of one battle. And yet, something didn't sit right. "We don't know where it went," Dante muttered, staring at the holo display of the missing ship. "It didn't warp. It didn't jump. It just disappeared." Dr. Elias Kern stood beside him, arms crossed. Because it's no longer in our universe. Dante turned sharply. What the hell does that mean? Kern sighed. We built the Black Horizon with physics we barely understood. We manipulated gravity fields, time distortions, quantum singularities. He hesitated. But I don't think we were ever in control of it. Dante's stomach turned. Then who was? Kern hesitated before answering. I don't know. Silence. Then a beeping sound filled the room. A proximity alert. Dante's eyes snapped to the console. What the? Kern paled. It was the same signal he had detected in the Kuiper Belt. A whisper from beyond reality. And it was getting closer. The signal pulsed again. A deep, unnatural frequency that defied all logic. It wasn't a distress call. It wasn't even a transmission. It was a presence. Captain Dante Raines felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him as he stared at the pulsating signal on the holo display. Across the control room, Dr. Elias Kern was frozen, his mind racing through theories that had no sane conclusions. Then, the alarms screamed. Unknown object detected, the AI intoned, its normally calm voice laced with urgency. Anomalous energy signature approaching Earth orbit. The room erupted into chaos. Officers scrambled for data, hands flying across control panels, barking orders into comms. Dante's heart pounded. Was it the Black Horizon? Visuals now, he barked. The main screen flickered, then snapped to a live feed from Earth's orbital defense grid. And there it was, a tear in reality itself. A gaping wound in space, writhing like something alive, leaking tendrils of pure darkness. The laws of physics around it twisted and warped. Stars behind the rift seemed to shift, bending and distorting as if they were being dragged into something beyond comprehension. Dante gritted his teeth. Kern, what the hell am I looking at? Kern's face was pale. That's not a wormhole, he whispered. It's something worse. The rift shuddered. Then a shadow began to emerge. A structure, a shape, a ship. But not just any ship. The HSS Black Horizon. It was different now. Larger, darker. No longer just a warship, but something more. Its hull shimmered with a strange, unrecognizable material, almost as if reality itself was struggling to render its existence. Its silhouette pulsed, shifting between forms, as if it no longer obeyed the concept of a fixed shape. The bridge fell into dead silence. Then, the comms crackled to life, and a voice, distorted, layered, almost inhuman, spoke. We have seen beyond the veil. Dante's blood ran cold. That voice, he recognized it. It was his own. Impossible, Kern whispered, his mind refusing to process what they were hearing, but the voice continued. Time is a river. We are no longer bound by its current. Dante felt his fingers clench into fists. Who are you? He demanded, forcing his voice to stay steady. What happened to the Black Horizon? Silence. Then, the ship moved. Not through propulsion. Not through any known form of travel. One moment it was distant, hanging in orbit above the moon. The next, it was right outside. The Earth's defense grid crashed instantly. Satellites malfunctioned, their circuits frying as if something far beyond technology had overridden them. The entire planet's gravity field shifted, subtly but noticeably, as if reality itself had bent in the presence of this impossible vessel. Kern swallowed hard. Dante, he said slowly, that's not just a ship anymore. Dante exhaled. Then what the hell is it? Kern's gaze was locked onto the impossible mass before them. It's becoming something else. And that's when they heard it. A whisper. Faint at first, like a distant echo in their minds, then stronger, not words, not language, a presence. Something was watching them, something that had been beyond the edges of existence itself. And now, it had come home. Admiral Vakor sat in the ruined command bridge of his last remaining warship, drifting in deep space. His once proud Valir dominion was gone. And now, he felt it too, a whisper in his mind, a presence. Something had returned to the galaxy, something that was never meant to exist. And this time? It wasn't just humanity's problem anymore. The HSS Black Horizon floated above Earth, silent and still. But something had changed. It wasn't just a ship anymore. It wasn't even human anymore. It had seen something beyond existence, and it had brought something back. Dante Raines felt it deep in his bones, a pressure, an unseen force, something primal pressing against the edges of his mind. It wasn't just him. Every officer in the command center was holding their breath, their hands trembling over their consoles, though none of them could explain why. The comms remained open, and the voice, his voice but not his voice, spoke again. "We are no longer bound by time." Dante clenched his fists. "What does that mean?" No response. Dr. Elias Kern was furiously typing on his console, sweat dripping down his forehead. "I'm running a scan, but—" He stopped, blinked, stared. Dante frowned. "What?" Kern slowly turned to him. His voice was barely above a whisper. "This ship, the Black Horizon, it's not in a fixed state." He swallowed hard. "It's in multiple points in time at once." Dante's blood ran cold. "What?" Kern looked sick. "I'm reading quantum signatures that don't make sense. It's here, but also yesterday, and next week. It exists in a loop we can't perceive." His eyes darted back to the readings. "It's outside of normal time." Dante exhaled. "Then who the hell is flying it?" Before Kern could answer, the Black Horizon moved. It blinked, vanishing and reappearing instantly, this time hovering directly above Earth's atmosphere. No thrusters, no warp signatures, just movement that defied every known law of physics. Then, the whispers grew louder, not just in Dante's head, across the entire planet. It started with a low, almost imperceptible hum. Then a ripple of something unseen washed over Earth. People collapsed in the streets. Soldiers dropped their weapons, clutching their heads. Civilians screamed. Scientists in deep space observatories froze in horror as instruments glitched and showed impossible readings. Something was speaking, not in words, not in language, in understanding. It poured into their minds like a flood. Knowledge that didn't belong, visions of things that had never happened, yet felt real. A man in New York fell to his knees, whispering in an ancient tongue he had never learned. A child in Tokyo screamed as she saw herself standing on an alien world that did not exist. A soldier on the lunar defense station dropped his rifle as his own reflection spoke to him from the polished glass. Time was unraveling, and the Black Horizon was at the center of it. Dante gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stay grounded as the whispers clawed at his mind. The room was spinning. His breath felt heavy, and then he saw it. A flash. Not of the past, not of the future, but of something beyond. A place that had no name, a void of shifting shapes and impossible colors, a reality that should not be, and in that place, the Black Horizon floated, surrounded by things that watched, things that were waiting. His heart nearly stopped, because at the center of it all, he saw himself. Not here, not now, but different versions of himself, infinite versions, standing in that impossible void. Some older, some younger, some with scars he didn't remember receiving. And all of them were staring right at him. The Black Horizon wasn't just moving through space. It wasn't just traveling through time. It was shifting through realities. And it had brought something back, something that wasn't supposed to be here, something that was waking up. Admiral Vakor stood aboard his refugee ship, staring at the transmission coming from the humans' homeworld. He didn't understand half of what was happening, but he understood one thing. The humans had done something no species had ever dared. They had broken time. And now, the entire galaxy was about to pay the price. The voice from the Black Horizon spoke one last time, and this time, the entire world heard it. We have seen beyond the veil. We have touched what was never meant to be touched. And now, it is awake. Then, the sky split open, and reality itself screamed. The sky above Earth split apart, not like a storm, not like an explosion, like a wound. A vast, shifting rupture tore through the upper atmosphere, spreading like cracks in glass. Beyond it? Nothing. Not space, not stars, just an infinite swirling void where time and physics had no meaning, and from that void, something was coming through. Dante Raines staggered back, his vision warping as the Black Horizon pulsed in synchronization with the rift. His earpiece crackled with panicked voices, military commanders, scientists, world leaders, all screaming at once. "What is that? We're losing planetary stability. Sir, something's inside the breach." Dr. Elias Kern was furiously typing on his console, but it was pointless. His calculations, his models, his understanding of physics, none of it applied anymore. Dante's pulse thundered in his ears. Then, the Black Horizon spoke one last time. "We have become more." A shudder ran through the planet. The ocean levels shifted, mountains trembled, and the thing in the void finally stepped through. There was no shape to it, no form that made sense. At times it looked mechanical, a vast warship of endless depth. At others it seemed organic, a shifting mass of eyes, limbs, and tendrils that flickered between dimensions. And yet, it was watching. Humanity had built the Black Horizon. They had unlocked something they never should have touched. And now, they had been noticed. Dante couldn't breathe. His mind filled with whispers, overlapping voices in 1,000 languages, speaking of things no human should ever comprehend. Memories that weren't his. Lifetimes in other universes. And in each of those lifetimes, he saw one common truth. This had happened before, and it had never ended well. Across the galaxy, empires trembled. The Valir Dominion, already fractured, fell into total collapse. Other species, once indifferent to humanity, now watched with terror. Because they understood one thing. The humans had broken the universe, and whatever had stepped through that rift was no longer human at all. As the world shook, Dante Raines clenched his fists. He had led the Black Horizon into war. He had commanded the ship that defied the laws of reality. And now, he was standing at the edge of something far greater than war. A new existence. One where time, space, and reality itself no longer mattered. And in that moment, he understood. The Black Horizon had never been a weapon. It had been a doorway. And humanity had just stepped through. "This is Captain Dante Raines of the HSS Black Horizon. I don't know if anyone is still out there. I don't know if this message will even reach another reality. But if it does, if anyone is listening, we didn't mean to break the laws of physics. We just wanted to survive. But now we are something else. And we are not alone. Be ready, because the Black Horizon has seen the truth. And the truth is terrifying."